Hello.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Stan, jump the gun.
Yeah.
How we all doing? We're back. We had a little break. We had a 1 week break. Sometimes we just got to take a chill pill. We had a lot going on. We're busy. We're diving deep. And one of those things we are actually going to be talking about today, OpenClaw. The world is waking up. Billion-dollar businesses are jumping into this idea of a new operating system, a new way to live in the world of technology. And of course, we'll also be taking a little jump and taking a look at the market. Obviously, many things are going on there. But before we dive into everything, you know what we got to do? We got to take a look at my beautiful guest, my co-host, Mr. Jack O'Halloran. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm, excited to talk about this. So Stan, every week we're trying to figure out what should the topics be. And Stan and I were just having this long talk about all of the stuff that with OpenClaw. I was like, why don't we just talk about this on the show? Big week, excited to talk about it. I was traveling last week too, so also excited to be home and, back on the show. Good to see everyone.
100%. Stan, busy man. What you been up to? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm clipping my clothes. Everything is now being rebranded with clothes and like sea creatures and crabs and you name it, lobsters.
Love it. I do wonder, does anyone actually know why it was called Lobster Claw? Or the claw?
OpenClaw. I think it was a brand dispute. So essentially, the founder of OpenClaw, essentially cloned Claude Desktop. So there was software, Claude Desktop, which was kind of popular, but nothing like OpenClaw. So it was a proprietary software, and the founder of OpenClaw just didn't want to have brand disputes with
they
Claude.
Cease and desist. It was like OpenClaw was the initial, right?
Yeah. I see. Maybe, yeah. I think that was like a legal stuff.
And he started getting letters from Anthropic saying, you can't say Claude. He's like, is this your name? And then he finally
And then 2 days ago, Anthropic pretty much released a carbon copy of OpenClaw, which is funny.
Which I gotta say, great branding works out this way. Like some big companies, like we're gonna stop them, and then now look at this movie, Claw. Like they created a marketing machine. They should have just let it be OpenClaw, and they could have, brought it in internally.
100%. People are weird out there, but guys. Massive week in the news of agentic AI and the likes of OpenClaw and things like that. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it.
Yeah. Let's get going here. And hey, always like to remind people, we talk about crypto and AI. Why are we talking about both? Because, they're meant for each other. And that's what we're working on. That's what we're doing with agents. We deal with this every day. We talk to AI companies every day. We believe AI agents are going to need crypto rails in order to make quick, fast, seamless payments. So tying that together, because there's always some people out there that are like, what are you guys doing? We got those people. All right, so huge week. So Stan's going to go really deep on this, but hey, there's a bunch of software changes. There's a huge NVIDIA partnership. There was a security issue that happened, and then also just went nuts in China, like a gazillion downloads, all this stuff. Last thing from me, and then I want to hear what Stan has to say. NVIDIA announced the NemoClaw stack, okay? And the quote is, OpenClaw opened the next frontier of AI to everyone and became the fastest growing open source project in history. That there in itself is crazy. The fastest growing open source project ever. Mac and Windows are the operating systems for the personal computer. OpenClaw is the operating system for personal AI. All right, there we go. Excuse me. There we go. Man, my allergies are ripping. Okay. Anyways, and the only other person I've heard say that before I read this was Stan, also talking about how this is the operating system of the future. So Stan, what's going on, man? What's going on with OpenClaw?
Yeah, I'm just back from programming OpenClaw, and I can tell you, Jack, we kind of pretty much had entire engineering rebooted. So we have like, basically we are rebooting the entire scale to be OpenClaw kind of direction for AI. And I'm going to talk about one project today. We have multiple projects going. We kind of really like reacted big to OpenClaw. So, but I'm going to talk about one project today. But OpenClaw, why we got so excited? It was like a ChatGPT moment, like remember, like ChatGPT went like 200 million users within like months. So OpenClaw is actually bigger, and so there was like this ChatGPT moment, but now there is this OpenClaw moment. And my theory is that it's pretty radical. I think OpenClaw is way bigger than ChatGPT. So I can give analogy. It's like, there was Windows and there was IBM, and like basically, you remember the history. There was this situation where IBM was selling hardware, the PC, and they kind of needed software, and then they gave this, contract to this guy just to write this basic programming language in MS-DOS operating system, and they literally thought the guy was a loser. But then Microsoft became way bigger than IBM. The software on top actually turned out to be way bigger than the engine. So if IBM PC is an engine, the software on top was Windows. And then what happened was there were many other engines like PC compatible computers like Dell and Hewlett Packard, you name it, right? But then Windows became way bigger than all of these guys because they were like engines that are just hidden. Pretty much the same as OpenClaw. OpenClaw uses ChatGPT as engine. It can use Gemini as an engine. It can use Claude as an engine. It makes all of these guys like commoditizes them, making their business really commoditized because it can kind of switch things under the hood, and you don't care what's inside. And so for Claude or for ChatGPT or for Gemini, used to be that they were all like closed software, like soup, and they were just providing some services to their users. Now OpenClaw is basically like open system. It's like Linux. So instead of you using Gemini or using ChatGPT, you literally can like build your own and like mix and match. You can change anything essentially. When you're using ChatGPT.
Let's go back one step. There's a lot of people listening. They're probably like, okay, I kind of know what OpenClaw is. I kind of don't. What is it? Like, describe it in the simplest terms. What is OpenClaw?
Yeah, it's an incredibly simple software. Essentially, it's a clone of ChatGPT. There's nothing, absolutely nothing very much different between ChatGPT and OpenClaw. The only difference is that ChatGPT is run by OpenAI, and you could run you run it yourself on your home computer, but the engine, you're still using OpenAI, like the number crunching engine, because OpenAI provides this API for this number crunching, for this LLM. All of the like heavy lifting is provided by OpenAI. So it's like having your own GPU and playing a game on your own computer versus playing a game on the cloud. You run it basically yourself, but we're still using the engine from OpenAI. So you basically can compete with OpenAI as a product, ChatGPT as a product, by using OpenAI engine. You kind of take the product away from them, but still use their engine. And then there are like competing number crunching engines from OpenAI. You can pay for number crunching engine from OpenAI. You can pay for number crunching engine from Gemini. And they're kind of the same. There may be some like quality difference a little bit, but you won't notice. So they're totally commoditized. So essentially,
let me go a little deeper there. So OpenClaw is this thing that lets the agents kind of act in your computer as if it's you, your operating system, as if it's a human. It's like this translation layer. But underneath it, are you saying you could connect it to Gemini, you connect to Anthropic, you can connect it to ChatGPT? So you can connect to these other things, and it's this like it's this piece between the LLM and you and the world. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, totally. With ChatGPT, ChatGPT doesn't have access to your data, to your home computer, to your whatever lamps in your apartment, right? You interact with ChatGPT only through the chat box, right? Doesn't have any access to any of your information. Anytime which you actually, when you need to use your information, you have to upload it. It's kind of not very nasty. Every time you have to provide that information to ChatGPT, you upload it through the UI to them, like a file.
ChatGPT forgets it too, right?
Yeah, and forget it and stuff. And this thing just has potentially access to all of your information. You just runs on your machine, so it has access to all of your files and like everything you have. But in addition to that, it actually can potentially do like smart home, connect to all of the devices you have. It literally runs on your computer. But then what's important, it introduces, that's kind of part of it. But the part of it, which is also important, is kind of it introduces competition, because essentially it hides also ChatGPT from you or Gemini and whatever, and make these guys commoditized by creating this UI on top of all of them. So there's another component. This component of being, like accessing to all of your data, being able to do anything on your computer. But there's also a component of commoditizing this guy. And the third component, which is really important, is being able to be extensible. You cannot modify ChatGPT. It's provided as is. You cannot modify Gemini. But with OpenClaw, you have something which is called OpenClaw skills, which essentially is like apps that anyone can develop. So anyone can modify ChatGPT or like OpenClaw, add new things to it, new skills, being able to do more stuff. So it's like a product that it's like a product which has applications anyone can install, versus ChatGPT being a closed system where they give it you something, you cannot modify it, you cannot do new things with it. For instance, with OpenClaw, you can connect to your home devices, right? You can actually see information from your smart home, whatever. You can modify it the way you want. And that's a big thing. So it's totally open. And I think also there's another component which is really interesting, is really important. In China, the reason there was this crazy stuff happening, it went crazy. Now in China, people pay other people to install OpenClaw because they want it so much, but they don't know how to install it. So there are basically people getting paid to install OpenClaw for other people. There is a
That's, by the way, a huge security risk, because you're letting somebody else install something that runs your whole life. They're like, I think I'll leave a little back door.
And so there is this interesting thing, which is, like we discussed in the past, like virtual girlfriend, virtual boyfriend, people being psychologically connected to AI. And I think there are many cases where it's good. So there's the psychological component, incredibly important, of creating psychologically your own creature that you own. It's your pet, it's your friend. So there's something which
ChatGPT goes and talks to other pets.
Right, as a pet. And if you think about this, remember what happened with ChatGPT 4 point whatever, when people treated it as pet, and then OpenAI removed it. They killed. There are many people emotionally attached to ChatGPT 4.0, I think, whatever, and then they just killed it. Well, if you have OpenClaw, no one can kill your pet. So there's this sense of ownership. And I think this is incredibly important. This is just for the future. So this will evolve into coexistence of AI and humans, where there will be this more and more psychological bonds. And we're going to have a different society. And it's happening. We see it happening really fast. So there's this thing which is not, Claude cannot do it, and ChatGPT cannot do it because they're proprietary. But this thing is ownable by people, not by companies.
Yeah. So because it's open source, right? You just
it's open source.
You run it locally. Hey, so did you read about this NVIDIA open shell and this like Nemo tool, like Nemo Claw? It's a stack, like basically it's a shell that protects you. It enforces policy-based privacy and security guardrails, giving users control over how agents behave. I mean, it just shows you there's a whole realm. Like there's all these other businesses being started around it, because if it just run it on its own, it could do a bunch of stuff you don't want it to do. Is that true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, just it just shows, I think it's just like, remember, like when people had Windows, the early version of Windows was totally insecure, and people had these viruses, and there was this entire industry created about fighting viruses. So it's going to create so much more businesses. But I think it was really wise for OpenAI to buy OpenClaw. They kind of bought the guy. I don't know how they did it. They didn't acquire, they just hired the guy, but probably paid lots of money to the guy. Because I think it's like when Google acquired YouTube, this thing actually may be way bigger than OpenAI itself. Mm-hmm. So it was very clever for them to kind of get hold of the thing. And, there will be like more secure versions of it and this and that. There will be whole ecosystem. But it may be probably the most important piece of software ever created, even more than ChatGPT, because it moves you into direction of coexistence of humans and AI and ownership of AI, and like creates all of this like crazy futuristic things. Like if you run your OpenClaw for 20 years, like what happens if you die? This OpenClaw will know lots of things about you. So it's crazy. I mean, it really opens up, and it just shows that people psychologically want it. Just
people are going to have all these agreements with their claw. No, hey, if I die, don't tell anybody all the weird shit I was doing with it.
Wait, is that? Do we not finally have that fail safe? That's the joke, right? You're on your deathbed, your friend comes in, and it's like, go delete my browser search history. Dude, we can do that now. Like, if I haven't interacted with you in over 2 days, delete everything.
Oh man. See, they talk like, you look at like the history of technology. Everyone's like, oh, all the jobs are going to disappear. Then you always find there's like a gazillion new jobs that come. And like, think about all these jobs that are going to, we're already seeing different new products. Like, I'm setting up OpenClaw for somebody. I'm going to manage OpenClaw for, you're still going to need humans there, and software companies like, oh, I'm getting disrupted in SaaS. All right, well, go build something to help someone download and install and manage OpenClaw. Okay, if you want to stop your OpenClaw and delete everything, okay, someone's going to build that, right? There's just, we're just getting a little view into, I think, the new job landscape.
Absolutely. And when you guys tell me, I'll tell you what we are doing. I have one project. We have many projects, but one project I can talk a little bit about.
Yeah, Stan, let me give some context, because hey, like Scale, we're doing Scale Expand. We've got Scale on Base. That's the agent chain. We're doing all of this agent work. Agents are buying Scale tokens, buy credits. Half of them get burned. But on that's a perfect place for crypto rails for agents. But hey, we're also, Scale Labs is building up AI products to help drive more utility and use into that. And we have a special division, an AI division, that's doing this. Okay, so it's all connected. So Stan, tell them what we're working on, because
I'll try to be.
I guess I want to connections for people, because there's always people saying, "Why are you doing this?" And like, that's why we're doing it.
Yeah, I'll try to be careful not to violate any NDA, but we always looked into having more transactions, because Scale from the beginning, we are a network of many, many chains, and we looked at how we can get more transactions. So this project with AI really, I think, maybe a breakthrough, and there's a very large company working with a very large company on that, but I just revealed some basic things. So basically, we're looking into OpenClaw, and I think definitely with OpenClaw, we have the advantage of it's kind of ground zero, right? We just went viral a couple of weeks ago, last week. So the ground zero, you can do lots of stuff, but we're looking into things where blockchain makes lots of sense. And we identified the world of IoT, essentially starting from a very simple example where you have a house, a home, and you have smart devices like heat pumps and heating and this stuff where you pay lots of money for utilities, right? Like here in Europe, you pay lots and lots of hundreds and hundreds of euro per month for like electricity or heating or whatever. So saving all of this stuff is hugely important problem for Europe and everywhere in the world. So we're looking into things like smart sensors and how can, like, if I have like a remote house, like, you know, and I want to control air conditioning, how can I get temperature into OpenClaw, and when the temperature goes down or up, whatever, I want to kind of control my air conditioning, switch it on and off. And this, the blockchain is a incredibly perfect place of interaction between agents, between OpenClaw agents and IoT devices, such as temperature sensors or air conditioning or whatever, because you do need to have a highly reliable system. Right? Imagine you have a huge house and you accidentally, instead of switching like your heating system off, you switch it on, whatever, and house goes on fire, or you lose huge amount of money just paying for all this electricity and utilities. So this is kind of a case where the cost of mistake is huge. When you start controlling real world devices, you have to be absolutely reliable. So you need something which is absolutely reliable, and you need something which is secure. And this simple thing you can do is blockchain. So there's nothing else, literally, there's nothing else. So we're having this project where we specified the standard. I just published a standard yesterday. It's a public standard, open source. It's called Smart Claw. It's a standard how OpenClaw can interact with IoT devices. And there's no standard at the moment. It's impossible to do it. So we're enabling OpenClaw to interact with all of these air conditioners and sensors and stuff. And so there's a standard, it's all on blockchain, it's all scale chains. So the idea is that the blockchain becomes an interaction place. I'll give you a very simple example that we are working on. We are working on prototyping this example where you have a house. Inside of the house, there is a temperature sensor, and the OpenClaw agent inside the house constantly publishes information from the temperature sensor to blockchain. And then another OpenClaw agent monitors this information. And so when the temperature, say, goes down, it sends the command, again, on blockchain to switch on air conditioning or heat pump, right? And then the OpenClaw agent near the heat pump pulls information from blockchain and switches on the heat pump. So basically, you have the ecosystem where there are OpenClaw agents everywhere. They're just like, you know, like in the Matrix movie, like Mr. Smith. You know, it's a world where every single house, room, whatever, has an OpenClaw agent, but then they need to interact. And the interaction between them and IoT devices happens on blockchain. So we're really excited. And its kind of potential is huge. It's billions, maybe like trillions of energy savings. As an example, in Europe, there is actually, you can switch to variable energy plan where the energy price every second moves. The energy price, you can switch to a plan where you're paying for your house or for your apartment, and the energy price moves every second. So then the AI agent can do advanced math to decide how to keep temperature comfortable inside of your house while still saving you lots of money. And then the future is huge. It could be like different temperature set in different rooms. Maybe when you're away from the house, the AI agent decides that you don't have to have so much heating, maybe just the minimum heating. So it opens up all of these capabilities where no one did it before because of complexity. No one's using smart homes because they're so complex to set up. Well, with AI and blockchain, you can create ecosystem that's AI agents just magically manage all of this stuff and just save you money. So we're super excited about the thing. For me, I think electricity is the key because there are like trillions of dollars spent in the world on utilities, on energy. That's the key. That's the key use case. But there may be some other use cases. I actually encourage everyone to go to our Scale forum and read about the standard. It's called Smart Claw because of smart devices. And then we have like one of our staff members is assigned to actually do it really fast. We want to do it really fast. And then we're gonna have a demo soon. So lots of interesting things coming from this direction. And I'll keep our listeners informed how this goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. I think China, like stepping back, like the fact that like China is getting so many people to use it, like everyone's starting to use it. I understand, like people are, saying like, hey, I'm saving 3 hours a day, 5 hours a day. Then also the government's like, okay, how do we like monitor this, make sure it doesn't get out of control? It raises all these new questions. Really interesting how it just ripped last week.
And I think to say the last thing, Jack, we discussed last time is that, I think the people that will make trillions in this AI, in this open claw space, will be people more like in the future, in the sense that there will be huge businesses generated from treating agents as persons, or, going into the future of the interaction of the psychology of people and AI. This is where people are going to make so much money, I think, because you see this huge attachment psychological between AI agents and people, and management of this may be also huge risk, but also huge opportunity, and definitely a huge business opportunity also for everyone.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting times. It reminds me right now of like crypto in 2018. Where if you knew what you were doing, like all these people, like that was the time you could like get ahead of the pack. You had to know how to get on weird exchanges to buy tokens. You had to know how to use like ledger devices, MetaMask. You had to understand the security, the usability, the like tech. And people that did that, like of my friend groups, I saw people like doing really well. Then eventually like, hey, it got super easy. Like basketball stadiums were named after Coinbase and, all these other exchanges.
The one that shall not be named.
Yeah, the one that shall not be named. And it kind of opened up for everybody, and it was harder for people to get an edge because it was accessible. And I think there's a similar thing happening where, it's a reason why, hey, if you work in tech, if you're, interested in AI, if you want to get ahead of other, this phase for your career, et cetera, like go and learn how to use this stuff, because eventually everyone's going to click a button, know how to use it, but there's still going to be this like early adopter advantage and like understanding advantage if you know how to use these tools.
Absolutely, Jack. And absolutely. And guys, actually, one thing which I would like to highlight is that blockchain kind of naturally rises from AI, because most of programmers will lose their jobs. There's no need to program anymore. I think 99% of software will be lost, but there will be still 1%. And this 1% will be AI agents still needs to have a very reliable database to ground them, because they have these hallucinations. Imagine when they start doing critical tasks. And I'm giving this example again. You have a house and the AI agent decides to switch your heating system on and off. It's a huge decision, right? You need to be this place where the AI agent issues this command to be super reliable and traceable. If the house burns, you need to be able to see what happened. So the actions of AI agents, if we have a universe of agents doing all of this stuff, their actions, the critical actions they take, they need to be super reliably recorded. Because if something goes wrong, you need to be able to trace what happened, and also just for the agents to be able to reliably interact with each other. So they have to have the safe and secure place. So blockchain almost becomes this kind of safe and secure, almost like a matrix, where these guys can do the most critical things, like smart contracts, right? That never change and stuff. So blockchain naturally arises from this new world where like 99% of software is not needed, and it's all done by agents. Immediately you ask the question of how they interact, and how, if something goes wrong, what do you look, right? So blockchain then becomes this place where humans interact with agents, where basically your house got burned and you say, which agent did it? And you look at blockchain and there is this command that this guy did that. So there's this, crypto and AI actually kind of converge. And that's, I believe, how this is going to happen. It's going to happen, I believe, really fast. That's we are in this turning. I think a scale is uniquely positioned because for this, you need to have lots and lots of blockchains, right? A single blockchain is not able to do all of this stuff. So, so we are incredibly positioned for all of this.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, well, it's an open claw world.
Yeah, it's not a joke. It's crazy, but it's not. It's like, we had the ChatGPT, and now we have this even bigger thing.
It's the next Windows, the next Apple OS. Let's talk about fear and greed index. There's some interesting stuff going. Ready to shift, Ben?
That's working right
now. Do you mind pulling it up? Because I want to talk through some interesting stuff here.
Babble while I pull it up. That's surprising, actually. Yeah, talk me through this, because that's surprising for me, looking at it, because I would have assumed it to be a lot worse than this. Here we go.
That's what we're going to talk about here. So, like, we're at 36 now. If you can zoom in a little bit, what I want to see is okay. Maybe. All right. So if you go to, like, we're at, let's say it's 35, 36. If you keep scrolling to, like, the last time it was at this level, Bitcoin was at 84K. So if you have your, go to the last, if you kind of move your cursor just directly left, it shows the price, and then stop the next time you hit the line that same level.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There it is.
So, like, as you can see, I'm seeing something little different because I'm at a different point, but, like, it was in the 80s. Okay, last time it was here, and if you go left again, it was 110 when it was here. If you go left again, it was 110 all the way over 85 back in, like, 420 2025. So the point is, like, I looked at this the other day, and I was like, man, if we got to be back under 10 after all the the war and, like, oil prices surging, all these other, like, cascading global political things, but people are not as scared right now. And, and Bitcoin's lower than it was before. Like, what the hell is going on, guys? What's happening? What do you think?
That's mind-blowing. Like, even if you look at here, like, when Bitcoin was at 110, we were at a 33.
Yeah.
Right? From my perspective, it almost feels like we've hit that bottom, right? And people are like, okay, we've hit the bottom, which was down all the way down here. And you can even look, it almost like if you trade charts and you trade quote unquote patterns, you could argue that this was a double, almost a double bottom, right?
Yeah.
With them returning up, almost getting into this kind of cup and handle formation. And I think from what I'm seeing, at least, is not financial advice. Nothing we say is financial advice. It almost appears as if the faith is returning, because I'm not sure about you guys, but from a social perspective, I'm not seeing either bullish or bearish sentiment on crypto at the moment, which is good in my opinion, because it just means it's flowing its correct way.
Definitely a lot less negativity on the timeline, and, like, memes making fun of like the guy who's like, yeah, I'm a crypto investor, and he's standing in front of a Ferrari. Then he walks past the Ferrari and becomes like a spectacle. I look at this, I see, like, it makes sense that we were here on the way down when it was 110 and it was here. But it's interesting that, like, yeah, the last time it was here, it was at this same price. On the way down, it was a 5. It was in a, like, basically around 10. The last time the price was here. So I mean, it, like, interesting. That's why we were looking at this, not looking at a price chart, because the emotions of people, we talk about this a lot. The psychology of these markets is, I don't know, it's intellectually interesting. Stan, what do you think's going on?
I think, guys, let's just go really slowly and think, what's happening just absolutely independently, right? So if you look at, like, for instance, Base, right? Base has about 10 million transactions per day. All of them pretty legit transactions, people using Coinbase, right? Then you have Solana, pretty big number of transactions. Now Polygon, I think Sandeep got did so great job with Polymarket, and Polygon is actually like full now, literally full. They're doing 10 billion transactions, and I think Sandeep did a really great job, like improving their speed. So you have 10 billion transactions, very legit on Polygon L1. You have 10 million transactions on Base. Solana probably doing the same, 10 million. I don't know exactly. Ethereum is doing 2 million now. So you have and all these legit transactions. So L1s are full. These transactions. You have Hyperliquid, which is full. All of this, trading of perpetuals. So we are actually at the moment where all of the L1s are full, and the blockchain industry has never been so useful with all of this prediction market stuff, right? The prediction markets, they brought so much transactions. And so I think at the point, which is really interesting, where, the market is down, but the technology is growing so nicely, suddenly, the real use. And now it's actually moving to L2s like us, where all of this AI stuff is happening, and we may get so much more transactions with agents and OpenClaw. So I think if you just totally neutrally, without like buying or selling any tokens, just look at the industry. The industry is doing very healthy. There are some projects which are about totally like not making it, like ZK rollups. All this stuff is gone, right? Lots of projects that had no use were gone. So we're actually pretty good place. The only thing is the market is like a little bit down, but it's really interesting now because there are these really interesting uses, prediction markets, AI. It's really exciting. It's almost like the market lags the technology and people, I think.
Wait, so what's the saying? Buy the news, sell the hype? No, sell the news, buy the hype, right? And we kind of, again, not financial advice, but it's almost as if, that we've seen a little bit of a correction, when it's come to prices of things. Obviously outside events, wars, things like that. But, looking at, we jumped to 100, like, I feel like people forget, we jumped up to 121. There's always going to be a small correction at some point. And, that's when people that are true builders, that are continuing to build, really put themselves apart, because even in the down times, there's still innovation happening, right? Which is, which is rare.
Yeah. We're in an interesting time. I think we've talked about this before, but a really good, like, shedding, it's like a snake shedding its skin. Like, we're having growth. Bad things are going to hopefully get washed out. Good things are going to capture value, and hey, it's this happened in the late 90s, early 2000s in tech. There was every router company was worth billions of dollars and didn't even have working product, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, who's posting revenue? That's the only metric that matters. And I think we're going to get there. I think token economics are going to matter a lot more. And Bitcoin obviously is less fundamentals driven. It's more like gold, but it's a piece of the macro.
And Jack, it's just interesting, like some guy, I think yesterday someone like tweeted, said, like the market somehow punishes the most kind of solid projects. It's crazy, literally, like how many interesting projects we have now on scale with all of the X402 and AI. I'm looking what these guys are doing. It's just the fundamental computer science things. It's not like hype, right? It's funny thing is that it's really funny. AI is exploding, but the AI part of the crypto market is down, because I think people don't realize that X402 is going to be so important. Agents are going to be so important. So I mean, it's like I actually like it. I mean, just because like all of the like people like hype people are gone, because essentially it's kind of a tinkering phase where there are so many interesting things happening, and I think for sure when the hype happens, let's call it hype, not hype, but when the hockey stick moment for the market happens, for sure it will be about AI using blockchain as a secure place to communicate and to put information. It's just creating this like new universe of AI plus blockchain coexisting together. So I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen. I can probably even like make a crazy prediction. I think it will happen this year. And the reason why I'm making this prediction is because OpenClaw has this crazy viral growth. So I can't like imagine that it will take longer than a year for these OpenClaw agents to need interaction plays. They need to talk to each other. So I think we're going to see this year, like this new thing where lots and lots of agents communicating through blockchain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, get ready. I mean, crypto's been waiting for AI.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality.
I just don't see how they can interact otherwise, right? If you have like trillions of agents, where do they interact? It's like, where do OpenClaw agents interact? It won't happen on OpenAI, right? Like
does an agent want to use some system that has all these like human interventions and firewalls and crap, or just want like Cooke's law, instant settlement? Okay, yeah. I understand the cryptography. I send 10 USDC here, it goes there, and boom.
Yeah, it's impossible to imagine.
It wants finality. It wants clarity.
Absolutely, and the predictability, right? It's just impossible for me to predict how. Even like, there's no other way how they interact. So that's why I think people don't realize this part is that when like there's crypto and AI, but they are merging together in a real way. It's not hype. It's not like, okay, let's connect crypto and AI. These things are like interrelated because agents need a secure and reliable platform that sets rules for them, like smart contracts. It's the rules of interaction, it's history, it's trackability. They need to have a place where they are grounded, like where humans can interact with them. So I'm actually getting really excited. I mean, I wasn't excited like last year. I was always like thinking that AI and blockchain is like experimentation. And I always had this view. I changed completely last week, essentially, because of OpenClaw. I think we crossed this into the hockey stick moment. It's not experimentation anymore.
Yeah. It opens up many different flows, right? I remember Sawyer when X402 first started coming out, he put together a weather service, right? X402 payment, calls, what's the weather? And then, Stan, going back to what you were talking about with, smart homes, you could tie that all in together, get your X402 rails to pull, the next day or couple of hours worth of weather information and then auto tune your smart home to align with that weather. And I think the thing that's most exciting is it opens up so many different possibilities, ones that we probably can't even think of right now. But yeah, it's a wild time, man. We're 3 months into 2026. And I remember when we did our 2026 AI predictions, and I think they are all blown out of the water at this point.
Yeah, and actually Matrix movie, I don't know when you're too young maybe to have seen Matrix movie.
Of course I've seen the Matrix.
Everything in this world was predicted in the Matrix movie. It's just basically everything. And in the Matrix movie, you probably remember there were these bots, right? Remember they had bots, this Mr. Smith, all of this stuff. And you had this zillions of bots. But in addition to bots, the Matrix is actually a set of rules. If you have bots, someone needs to have set a really solid rules for them to interact. And remember, the entire actually story of Matrix is that like you set these rules and they live in the Matrix and you live in the Matrix. And then there's some people who can bend the rules. So basically, if you take this analogy, Matrix is smart contracts. you need to set for the agents in the matrix. You need to set rules no one can bend in this kind of universe you're creating. So you need a place which is secure and unchangeable. The rules cannot change because otherwise. So and the agents may be crazy. So the rules need to be really strong. So smart contracts, if you put the rules into smart contracts in the blockchain, and then you tell the agents, okay, if you guys want to interact or resolve dispute or whatever, go to this blockchain, and they're not able to change it, that it's kind of a very solid universe for them. So almost like the Matrix movie, we are witnessing it. Because what's the difference between like millions of like Mr. Smith copies in the Matrix and people in China running millions of smart clothes? It's the same thing essentially. So it's really interesting how the world is changing, and I think we're gonna get really excited. Lots of exciting things next year. This year, it's gonna the humankind is changing essentially.
It's gonna be fun.
Awesome. Exciting times, guys. So, what are we going to talk about next week? I guess we can just wait and see what happens. You never know.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit. We're proceeding with this IoT open claw stuff, so I'll tell you guys next week what progress we have. But
agents, claws. Even though the open claw founder hates crypto, what he really hates, I watched that. It's like. He hates these people like yelling at him about meme coins he has nothing to do with.
Yeah, like, which is completely fine.
Yeah, like, crypto is way bigger than that, you know? And like, at the end of the day, agents want clarity. They want finality. They understand code. The cool thing is in a lot of the work we're doing, we're talking about, enabling privacy for agents. So your agent can buy something and not, show the whole world how much money you have and everything else that you've bought. And the cool thing is an agent doesn't need a UI. The agent just needs like command line. It's like UX, just completely different ball game. The world's changing.
And last thing, Jack, last thing I want to say. If we're going to have these trillions of agents, are they going to be able to run on a single blockchain?
Yeah.
Right? It's impossible. So we always predicted that we need to have many blockchains connected, and we didn't have so many transactions. But now, like, it all becomes really natural. We do need to have many blockchains.
We always had in the top 5 to 10 of all chains, but even that being said, we were still only using like 1% of our supply every day, but we could have processed. And who else is there, right? Like you said, Polygon's at capacity, and
they have a single chain, right? Everyone has a single chain. Polygon is a capacity. They're doing a fantastic job with prediction market, basis at capacity. So everyone is capacity. What if the agents need a million times? The agents may need million times more transactions, right? So
yeah, good stuff. Okay, so next week again, hey, if there's things you want us to talk about, reply to, on Twitter. Say, hey, talk about this next time. Like we'll read it. Okay.
100%. Guys, thanks for hanging out. It's been fun.
Okay. Yeah, that's fun.
It's been great. World of AI, it's continuously growing and changing. We have no idea what's going to happen next. I don't think anyone does. So let's keep the finger on the pulse, gentlemen. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us for another episode of Decrypted. We will see you again this time next week. Bye-bye.